Here with USC Upstate head men's soccer coach Greg Hooks. Greg, first of all, congratulations. You're entering your 25th season as a head coach in college soccer. That's quite an accomplishment in itself.
Well, I'm not sure if that's an accomplishment in terms of success, or you just, good, clean living will get you a long way, Bill. And that's sort of what I've tried to live by.
I'm hearing you. Coach, obviously the season's about to start. Got a stiff test to open up the regular season tomorrow night at Clemson. Obviously one of the more storied programs in NCAA Division I history, the Clemson program is. What are you looking for early on in the season against an opponent the type of Clemson?
Well, we didn't intentionally schedule them first. It just worked out that way, so it wasn't necessarily a plan, but in some ways it'll be good because it'll reveal to us very quickly our strengths and our weaknesses. Clemson, like you said, is a very strong program, 2 national championships. I think they still have more ACC championships than any other team in that conference, and they expose you is what it does. And you can play all the weak teams you want and feel good about yourself, and there's something valuable in that as well. But at the end of the day, our players want to play good teams, and we have no problem fighting those teams in the Carolinas, in South Carolina alone. So what I think it'll tell us is where we are versus where we need to be. It'll show us specifically where our strengths are, and it'll probably also show us where some of our weaknesses are.
You talked about earlier about using this game as a benchmark of where you guys are now, where the team needs to go, what they need to work on. Preseason, the 2 preseason games that we've had so far, you've had the ability to put the ball in the back of the net, especially in the second half, scoring 9 goals in the first 2 scrimmages or exhibitions. That's got to be something very positive as you enter into the regular season.
Yeah, our last couple of year recruiting classes, we try to emphasize getting some guys who can score, and it's worked out to this point. Now, obviously, the test now will be, can we do that against teams at the Division I level? Because neither team in the preseason were Division I teams, so not to put a negative spin or a damper on it. You obviously are glad anytime you can score goals. But the key going forward in terms of the Division I schedule, which everyone we play between now and the end of the year is a Division I team, is twofold. Being able to score goals is absolutely critical. You have to score goals, obviously, to win games. But just as importantly, probably more importantly, is the ability to keep the other team out of your goal. And that's one thing that we really, hopefully, can improve upon. You saw a difference between the SMC versus our last game in the sense that we went from allowing 3 goals to not allowing any goals. So that's one thing we really emphasize. And the key to being able to compete with the Clemson, a Furman, the top 25 teams that we play, is to keep them from scoring, because that allows us to stay in the game. We had quite a few games last year that at 0-0 at halftime, 1-1 at halftime, 0-0 at the end of the regulation. Some of them we did okay, some we lost in overtime. But at the end of the day, we were competitive. We initially made this move to Division I. We may be down 3-0 at halftime, and you can give all the pep talks you want. You can look at the kids' eyes, and they're going, we've already lost this game. Let's move on to the next one. So you've got to score goals, and that's certainly a pleasant thing. But the key, again, is for us to keep them from scoring goals.
Talk about the toughness of the competition on Division I level. Was looking at that earlier. Since moving to Division I, we've played 40 games that were decided by 1 goal. I mean, the margin of error is so minuscule, it's not even funny. How is it that you're able to coach a team to try to get over that 1-goal hump?
Well, you prepare them. You tell them that that's the biggest thing that happens. It's in what the hardest thing is in men's division, probably women's too, but the men's, which what I know is men's Division I soccer, you can play well for 89.5 minutes. And you saw some of that in the last couple of years where we have a guy slip and fall down, you have a guy make a bad mistake, they score 1 goal, and other than that, it was a pretty even game. And that's part of the difficult thing of keeping kids up when you've lost 3 or 4 games like that. It's probably easier maybe than when you're down 3-4-0. That 1 goal doesn't make that big of a difference. So a lot of that psychological, a lot of that is conditioning, physical conditioning, obviously mental conditioning, staying focused. But it's also a testament that we've become more competitive, and that's soccer in general. But Division I soccer versus Division II soccer, if I look back at our Division II days, there were years, I think one year we scored 102 goals in one season, and that's no team's ever going to do that in Division I. I don't care how good they are. There's just too much parity in Division I soccer. And I see that in our sport, not that there's not parity in others, but one of the things that leads to that in men's soccer is not every school sponsors men's soccer. You know, South Carolina, for instance, is the only school in the Southeastern Conference that has men's soccer. So what ends up happening is the talent pool isn't spread real thinly. It's there's so many schools that don't sponsor men's soccer that everybody's good. You know, you have last year UNC Charlotte plays in the national championship game. It's not unusual for a Coastal Carolina or a Winthrop or an Elon, schools that you wouldn't think about in other sports, getting into the second and third round of the NCAA tournament, beating ACC schools regularly. You know, back when we first got in this, in the A-Sun, Campbell beat North Carolina, I think, 3 straight years. And one of those years, North Carolina won the national championship. So, you know, the A-Sun, we're not quite there yet, but it's not unusual for 3 or 4 A-Sun teams to have 3 or 4 wins over ACC opponents. So that's just the nature of it. They're all going to be close games, and you can go 0-17 and have a pretty good team.
Heading into the season, I know that you're going to rely on some of your returning players for leadership on and off the field. Last season, the best season since we joined Division I in 2007, and had 5 postseason selections in the Atlantic Sun Conference. 3 of those selections are returning this year with second team picks Dylan Hoop and John Cadane, and then all freshmen Dave Musambi. He's now a sophomore this year. Cadane and Hoop are both seniors. What is it about those returning players and the other returning players that you have on the team that you're really going to look to?
Well, a lot of it, I think, is just experience. You can watch. Dylan's not really an example because he was a junior college transfer, has only been here for a year. But you look at a guy like John Cadane, who compared to and he was a good player as a freshman, but he is so much of a better player now, a more complete player now than he was as a freshman. So when you look at the older guys, and again, Dylan came in with experience, not that he hasn't improved and worked hard, but we have freshmen who we put on the field now early in the season, and there's a distinct difference between them and the juniors and seniors. Now that freshman will eventually catch and maybe pass them, but initially that experience, getting over the nervousness, it's not a new experience for them. So just the experience of having games under your belt makes a big difference as a player. You're more confident, you're more sure of yourself. Things happen to you, and it's not the first time it's ever happened, so you know how to react. And I can't say enough good things about our returning players. Our last 4 or 5 years have been not so great. Last year was better, but in defense of some of the guys who graduated, they went through a tough time. That transition is a tough period to go through. But this group of guys, and I saw it from January on, the attitude has been wonderful, the work ethic, pushing each other. Things happen that we don't want to happen, and they still stay positive. So I think this group will be okay. I think this group will be they're talented players, but more importantly, they're very good kids, and that makes a real big difference.
And lastly, last year Jason McCabe started every single second, played every single second in goal. He was a 3-year starter. He's no longer here. You're going to have to put somebody in goal who's never seen an official game second in this program. I'm sure that's going to be a little bit of a concern, but although you do have a couple of players, Danny Alvarado, who's a sophomore on this year's team, basically was McCabe's understudy last year, and then Dan Bacon, who's a junior college transfer as well, that you can possibly lean on. But that's obviously got to be maybe not so much a concern, but obviously something that you're going to have to deal with heading into the season.
Well, it's a bit of an unknown, and all the practices in the world don't reveal what the goalkeeper is going to do, because a goalkeeper is a tough position to play. You kind of get blamed every time a goal is scored, even though it may not have been your fault. Jason McCabe was all conference and kept us in games. Danny had a good spring. We purposely played some good teams last spring, including South Carolina and Columbia. And we did that mainly to give these young guys a chance to see a good level of play. And Danny played every minute in the spring because he was the only goalkeeper we had. Daniel Bacon came in very confident out of a very good junior college program. And I think between the two of them, we'll be okay in goal. There may be some some peaks and valleys, but that's probably true of any player. But I do think the spring helped Danny Alvarado significantly, and Daniel Bacon's not coming straight out of high school or club. He's coming out of a 2-year program where they were nationally competitive. So he's played with and against some pretty good players.
All right, Coach, thank you for taking some time out as you prepare for the season opener tomorrow night against Clemson, and wish you the best of luck.
All right, thanks, Bill.